I am Arthur Sterling, 68 years old. For 5 long years, I allowed my daughter, Lillian, and her husband, Gareth, to live in my Phoenix home rent-free. It was a gesture of love, a bridge of support after my dear wife, Eleanor, passed away. But last Tuesday, that bridge burned down. Lillian walked into the kitchen, her face a storm cloud, and didn't say a word. She just slammed a piece of paper onto the granite countertop and electricity bill, and then she pointed a finger at me, shaking with manufactured rage. Subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. Let's see. She screamed that I was nothing more than a boarder in her home, a burden she couldn't afford. She then made her demand. I must pay $6,000 a month in rent, effective immediately, or get out. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I simply nodded, gathered the few things I needed into an overnight bag, and walked out the door. They didn't know two things. First, that I had already settled the utility bill hours before, and second, that they had just given an eviction notice to the sole trustee of an ironclad legal fort that held the deed to the very ground they stood on. I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Within 72 hours, the house was sold for $1,005,000 in cash. When the new owners started the eviction process less than a week later, Lillian called me hysterical. But the reply I gave her was not what she expected. Before I continue, let me know in the comments where you are listening from. And please like and subscribe if you believe parents should not tolerate disrespect from their own children. The electric bill slapped the polished countertop with a sharp, brittle sound that echoed unervingly in the silent kitchen. It was the only sound in the room, a sound like a starting pistol for a race I didn't even know I was running. Gareth, my son-in-law, slid the paper towards me with a casually disdainful finger. $475, Arthur, he drawled. His voice was lazy, a perpetual drag that always managed to sound both bored and condescending. What exactly are you trying to do? Refrigerate the entire state of Arizona. I looked down at the piece of paper. $475.23. It was addressed to me, Arthur Sterling, the man whose name was, for all practical purposes, on the deed to the entire house. I'm the one who pays this bill, Gareth, I said, keeping my voice utterly level. I've told you that. And it's August in Phoenix. The AC is going to run. It's the principle of the thing, he shot back. Gareth is 39. He wears expensive, wrinkled linen shirts he probably slept in. He lives in my house for free and hasn't held a steady job in 9 months. He knows an awful lot about principles. We are trying to save money, he continued, jabbing at the bill as if it were a hostile witness. And you're running the AC like we own the utility company. We asked you to turn the thermostat up to 80. That's when Lillian, my daughter, walked in. She was drying her hands on a linen dish towel, one of the few things left from the wedding set Eleanor and I received 43 years ago. She saw the bill. She saw Gareth's defensive posture, and she immediately, reflexively, took his side. Dad, he's right, she said. Her voice was soft, which, as I'd learned, was always worse than when she yelled. We all need to be more mindful. Every dollar counts right now. I looked at my daughter, my Lillian. She was wearing a high-end yoga outfit, the kind that costs over $130 for the top alone. She hadn't worked since she married Gareth 5 years ago. I resisted the urge to point that out. Lillian, I said, my patience wearing dangerously thin. I have paid this bill. I pay the property taxes $21,000 a year. I pay the home insurance. I pay for the majority of the groceries. I have paid for virtually every single thing in this house for 5 years, ever since you two moved in right after your mother passed away. The name Eleanor hung in the air. This kitchen, with its custom cherry cabinets I'd built myself and the polished quartz countertops I paid for just last year, had been her sanctuary. Now it felt more like a courtroom. Gareth scoffed. Don't pull the dead wife card, Arthur. This is about responsibility. We're a family. We're supposed to be a team. A team, right? I countered. A team where I was the only one pulling the plow. And what's your contribution to the team, Gareth? I don't see you contributing to the tax bill. I don't see you buying groceries. I did see you order a $350 set of designer headphones from Amazon last week, shipped right to this address. Garrett's face flushed a dull red. That was a business expense. I'm networking. Networking for what? A job you haven't even applied for. Enough, Lillian shouted. The shift was instant. The soft, concerned daughter was gone, replaced by this sharp, brittle stranger she'd become. This is exactly the problem, Dad. You're always attacking. You're always judging. You sit here in your little kingdom and judge us. This little kingdom is my home, I said, my voice hardening. It's our home, she snapped back. We live here. We've put our lives on hold to be here with you, Tata. I almost laughed out loud. On hold. You moved in because you were evicted from your apartment in Scottsdale. You moved in because Gareth lost his job. You moved in because you were broke. We moved in to support you after Mom died, Lillian insisted. That was 5 years ago, Lillian. I am fine. It seems to me you're the ones who need the support. This was going nowhere. I sighed, picking up the bill and folding it neatly. I will pay this, as I always do. But Gareth, you will not speak to me that way in my own house again. Gareth looked at Lillian. It was a silent, smug challenge. Are you going to let him talk to me like that? Lillian drew herself up to her full height. Her face hardened, and the daughter I knew vanished completely. She was replaced by this cold, entitled stranger. No, Lillian said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous level. We're not doing this anymore, Dad. We're not going to live under your thumb. My thumb? I was genuinely confused. I pay for everything. How is that living under my thumb? Exactly, she interrupted. You hold it over us. This kingdom, as you call it. You make us feel small. You make us feel like children. Gareth chimed in, smelling blood in the water. She's right, Arthur. We can't build our future when we're stuck here living off your scraps, worrying about a $400 electric bill. Then don't worry about it, I said. Both of you go get jobs and buy your own house. Lillian laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound that didn't belong in Eleanor's kitchen. Oh, Dad, you just don't get it, do you? We like this house. We like this neighborhood. This is our life. You're the one who's in the way. I stared at her. In the way? Do you have any idea, she said, stepping closer, what it's like to be 38 years old and have to tell your friends you live with your father? Do you know how humiliating that is? I imagine it's less humiliating than telling them you're homeless, I muttered. What did you say, Dad? Nothing. No, say it. I said, I repeated, standing up. I imagine it's less humiliating than being homeless, which you would have been 5 years ago if I hadn't taken you in. The truth hit her hard, but instead of shame, it curdled into rage. See, she shrieked, turning to Gareth. This is what I'm talking about. He holds it over us. He treats us like dirt. She spun back to me, her eyes narrowed. You know what, Dad? Gareth and I had a long talk last night. We've been caretakers for 5 years. Caretakers. I almost shouted. I'm 68, not 98. I don't need a caretaker. I fixed your clogged sink last week. I drove you to the doctor because Gareth was too busy playing video games. It's emotional labor, Dad, she yelled. The stress of worrying about you. The burden of knowing you're just in the next room, listening, judging. We are wasting the best years of our lives, the years we should be building our family. Stuck here, babysitting a bitter old man. A bitter old man? I repeated. The words felt like gravel in my mouth. Yes, and it's over, she said, crossing her arms. We've made a decision. Things are going to change for real this time. Gareth stood beside her, a triumphant smirk on his face. This was clearly his idea, but Lillian was the executioner. All right, I said, sitting back down. What change are you proposing? You want me to stop buying the premium coffee? No, Lillian said. We want you to start contributing. Really contributing. I contribute everything. You contribute to the house, Gareth interjected. You don't contribute to us, to the stress, to the time, to having to put up with you. A cold dread crept up my spine. What are you talking about, Gareth? Lillian delivered the final blow. We've looked at the market rates for a room in this zip code, plus utilities, plus compensation for our care. She paused, savoring the moment. We've decided that $6,000 a month is a fair price for you to continue living here. The air was sucked from my lungs. $6,000 a month. That's right, Gareth said, nodding. To live in my own house. It's not your house anymore, Lillian said, her voice flat, devoid of all emotion. Not really. A house belongs to the people who live in it, who make it a home. That's us. You're just here. I looked at the cherry cabinets I had sanded and stained by hand. I looked at the saltillo tile floor Eleanor and I had laid on our knees one hot July. This house, I whispered, is in my name. I paid off the mortgage in 2004. It is my house. Lillian laughed that ugly laugh again. That's just a piece of paper. That's old person thinking. This is our world now, Dad. And in our world, you pay your way. And if I refuse, I asked, my voice barely audible, if I don't pay your $6,000 extortion fee. The look on Lillian's face, my daughter's face, became a mask of cold, absolute indifference. She leaned in close enough for me to see the deep blue flecks in her eyes, just like her mother's. Then you get out. What? You heard me. Pay the rent or get out. We are not supporting you anymore. You have until the first of the month. That's 10 days. Find the money or find a new place to live. Gareth was grinning. A truly disgusting sight. Lillian stood tall, proud of herself, as if she'd just closed a major business deal. And I just stared at her. I stared at the stranger wearing my daughter's face. I saw the $2,000 luxury handbag slung over Lillian's shoulder. I saw the diamond tennis bracelet Gareth had surprised her with last Christmas, a bracelet I had paid for when I'd given Gareth $2,800 for a critical business launch cost that never materialized. I had financed my own execution. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't list the thousands of dollars I'd spent, the sacrifices I'd made. What was the point? They knew. They just didn't care. My heart, which I thought had broken when Eleanor died, just found a new way to shatter. I stood up from the kitchen table. I looked at the dinner I had cooked for them all, a rosemary roast I knew Eleanor loved. I understand, I said. My voice was perfectly flat. Lillian's triumphant smile faltered. She had expected a fight. She had expected tears, begging, arguments. She had prepared for a storm. She was not prepared for calm. You understand? She stammered. Yes, I said. I understand completely. Pay or get out. You've made your position clear. I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I went to my bedroom, the master bedroom Eleanor and I had shared, the one room they hadn't dared to claim yet. I closed the door. I heard the lock click into place. I sat on the edge of the bed in the silence. I could hear their voices in the kitchen, lowered to whispers now. Well, that was easy, I heard Gareth murmur. Lillian let out a nervous giggle. See, I told you he's just a lonely old man. He has nowhere else to go. He'll pay. I looked at the photograph of Eleanor on my nightstand. Well, sweetheart, I whispered to her. You were right. You always said Lillian married a leech. You just never knew she was one too. He'll pay, Lillian had said. Oh yes, they were all about to pay. I sat on the edge of the bed. The click of the lock still echoed in the room. Pay or get out. The words repeated in my head, a stupid, vicious little rhythm. My daughter, my Lillian, had just threatened to make her 68-year-old father homeless. The father who had paid for her university, her wedding, and the roof over her head for the last 5 years. I could hear them on the other side of the door. The whispers, the relief. I distinctly heard Gareth say, well, that was easier than I thought. Lillian's nervous giggle. See, I told you he's just a lonely old man. He has nowhere else to go. He'll pay. A lonely old man. Maybe I was. I reached for the polished wood frame on my nightstand. Eleanor smiled back at me, frozen in time from our trip to the Grand Canyon in 1997. Her eyes were bright, full of life, full of the mischief I adored. Oh, Eleanor, I whispered to the glass. You wouldn't believe this. You wouldn't believe what she's become. Eleanor had been the smart one, the planner. I was the builder, the one who worked with his hands. She was the strategist, the one who saw 3 moves ahead in any game. She's got Gareth's ambition, Eleanor used to say about Lillian. I just pray she doesn't get his morals. It seemed her prayers hadn't been answered. This was our room. I had carried Eleanor over this threshold in 1986. Lillian was born when we lived in that first tiny apartment, but she grew up in this house. This was the room I had sat in, holding Eleanor's hand as she took her last breath 5 years and 3 months ago. And now, that same daughter was demanding $6,000 for the privilege of sleeping in this bed. He has nowhere else to go. Lillian had said. That's where she was wrong. That's where they were both so catastrophically, beautifully wrong. They saw me as old. They saw me as weak. They saw me as simple. What they didn't see was Eleanor's foresight. I stood up and walked to the closet. Behind my old work boots and a box of Eleanor's shoes I still couldn't bear to throw away, there was a small black safe set into the wall. I spun the dial. 12-15-79 Eleanor's birthday. The tumblers clicked. Inside, beneath my old military service medals and Eleanor's antique silver locket, was a thick leather-bound folder. I pulled it out and sat on the bed. The Eleanor Sterling Irrevocable Trust. Eleanor was a corporate paralegal for 30 years before she retired. She saw things. She saw families tear each other apart over wills. She saw greedy children try to declare their parents incompetent. 10 years ago, when the doctors first mentioned the word cancer, she didn't cry. She got organized. "Arthur, Thomas Wong will not handle this," she had said, sitting right here in this kitchen. "We have to protect ourselves, not from strangers, from family." At the time, I thought she was being paranoid. Lillian was in her 20s, newly graduated. She was sweet. She was our little girl. But I trusted my wife. I would have trusted Eleanor with my life. And in the end, I did. We went to see a top-tier estate lawyer, a shark from downtown Phoenix named Henderson. We spent 6 months and thousands of dollars restructuring everything. We didn't just write a will. We created a fortress. We took this house, the house I built, the house I paid off in 2004, and we transferred the deed. We moved it out of my name. We moved it out of her name. We placed it permanently and legally into the trust. I'm not the owner of this house. Not anymore. I'm the sole lifetime trustee. I'm a manager. I am the one in control. The house belongs to the trust. And who is the beneficiary of that trust? Our other child. Our son, David, who lives in Denver. The one who calls every Sunday just to see how I am. The one who sends pictures of his kids. The one who has never asked me for a single dime. Lillian? She was left a generous cash, some in our will. But she has absolutely zero claim on this property. None. Legally. Lillian and her deadbeat husband are not family members living with their long-suffering father. They're tenants at will, guests, squatters with an invitation that just expired. A cold, sharp clarity washed over me, pushing the pain down. Pay or get out, she had demanded. She had just given the landlord an ultimatum. She had tried to charge the owner rent. The sheer, breathtaking arrogance of it, the stupidity. They were so blinded by their greed, so convinced of my weakness, so certain that I was a simple old man, that they never even bothered to run a simple public record search on the property. They just assumed it was all theirs for the taking. I looked at Eleanor's picture again. "You did it, sweetheart," I said. A small, cold smile touched my lips for the first time in days. "You saved me, even now." Lillian thought I had nowhere to go. I could go anywhere. I have my pension. I have my savings. And I have the full, unrestricted legal authority of this trust backing me. She thought she was giving me 10 days to find $6,000. She had no idea. She just gave herself 10 days to find a new life. I stood up. The shock was gone. The grief for my daughter was still there, but it was now packed in ice. All that was left was clarity. I picked up my phone. It wasn't time to call my son, David. Not yet. It was time to call my lawyer. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. The leather of the folder was cool against my fingers. Outside the door, the whispering had stopped. I heard the clink of glasses. Laughter. They were celebrating. They had just successfully shaken down a 68-year-old widower for $6,000 a month, and they were celebrating. "He'll pay," Lillian had said. I picked up my phone. My hands were perfectly steady. I scrolled past Lillian and David to the letter H. Henderson. The phone rang twice before he picked up. His voice was exactly as I remembered it from 10 years ago in that high-rise office, calm, precise, and expensive. "Henderson Legal. This is Mr. Henderson speaking." "Henderson," I said, my voice quiet. "It's Arthur. Arthur Sterling." There was a pause. He was pulling up my file. "Arthur, it's been a long time. I trust you're well, given the circumstances of our last meeting." "I'm fine, Henderson, but I'm calling about the trust. Eleanor's trust." "Of course," he said. "Is there an issue with the distributions for David?" "No," I said. "It's time. I want you to sell the Phoenix house." The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. I could picture him in his corner office, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses, looking out over the city. Arthur, sell the house? What's happened? You know the terms of the trust are clear. You have lifetime rights to reside, but selling it, that's a major liquidation. I am aware of the terms, Henderson. I am the trustee, and I am instructing you to sell the asset. Okay, he said slowly, shifting into his professional legal mode. But Arthur, you have to understand, we can't just sell it. Your daughter and her husband are living there. They have established residency. They are, for all intents and purposes, tenants. Even without a written lease, under Arizona law, we have to give them a formal written 30-day notice to vacate. They can, and likely will, contest it. They can claim hardship. They can drag this out in the courts for months, maybe a year. And no one will buy a multi-million-dollar property with hostile occupants. I listened patiently. He was a good lawyer. He saw all the logical problems, but he didn't have the emotional component. They won't be a problem, I said. Arthur, you're not listening. They are the problem. You can't just kick your daughter out. Henderson, I interrupted, and my voice was no longer that of a client, but of a manager. An hour ago, my daughter informed me that I am, in her words, just a boarder in this house. She then gave me an ultimatum. Pay $6,000 a month in rent by the first of the month, or get out. Her exact words were, pay or get out. The lawyer was silent. I had finally, after 10 years, managed to surprise him. She what? She just tried to extort her landlord, Henderson. She just gave the trustee of the property notice to vacate. My God, Arthur, I'm sorry. Don't be, I said. This clarifies things. But you're right. I can't wait months. I don't want to fight them in court. I don't want open houses. I don't want a for sale sign on the lawn. I want this done fast, and I want it done clean. What are you proposing? He asked. I'm not selling it on the market, I said. I'm not dealing with staging and repairs and waiting for the right buyer. I want you to call an iBuyer, an investment firm. Arizona Horizon Investments. Open door. Zillow offers. I don't care who. I want a cash offer, as is sight unseen. I want it closed in 7 days. Thomas Arthur. Henderson protested. You'll take a massive hit. They'll offer you 15, maybe 20% below market value, just for the convenience. The house is worth $1.3 million easily. You'll be lucky to get $1 million. $1,005,000, I said. What? I'll take $1,005,000. I don't care about the money, Henderson. I care about the principle, as Gareth would say. I want this asset liquidated. I want it out of my hands. I want them gone. Can you do it? I heard him sigh, the sound of a man who was about to make a lot of money on a very sad case. A cash offer, as is, closing in 7 days. Yes, Arthur, I can do that. I'll make the calls first thing in the morning. Good, I said. Send all the paperwork to my new address. New address. I was already pulling my old suitcase from the top of the closet. That's right. As of tonight, I'm honoring my daughter's request. I'm getting out. At 5:30 in the morning, the house was dark and silent. I had not slept. I packed one suitcase, a few good shirts, my toiletries, the leather folder with the trust documents, and the framed photo of Eleanor. Everything else could stay. I walked through the house one last time. The kitchen was clean. I washed my own plate. I went to the small desk by the window where I pay my bills. I found a notepad. I wrote, Lillian and Gareth, I need a few days to think about your request. I'll be at a friend's house. Dad, I left it on the kitchen counter, right where the electric bill had been. I let myself out the front door, the same door I had carried my daughter through when she was a baby, wrapped in a pink blanket. I didn't look back. The rideshare I had ordered was waiting at the corner. Where to, sir? The driver asked. The Phoenician downtown. The driver raised an eyebrow in the rearview mirror, looking at my simple suitcase and my old man jacket, but he nodded and pulled into the pre-dawn traffic. By 6:15, I was checking into a $350 a night suite overlooking the McDowell Mountains. The concierge was polite. The room was quiet. I ordered coffee and a grapefruit from room service, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt a strange, cold peace. I was no longer a caretaker. I was no longer a burden. I was just a man in a hotel room about to become very, very rich. I let a day pass. I knew the note would satisfy them. They would think I was weak, scared, trying to figure out how to scrape together their extortion money. They would feel powerful. They would feel in control. That was fine. Let them have their moment. My phone buzzed. A text from Lillian. Dad, where are you? Call me. I ignored it. Another text. Dad, this isn't funny. We're worried. I ignored that, too. I was busy. I was on the phone with Henderson. Henderson, I said, looking out at the morning runners along the canal below. I need one more thing. I need to know why. Why? This isn't just greed, I said. This is desperation. I heard it in their voices. They're trying to con me out of my house, and they're scared. I was already looking into it, Henderson said. He was a good lawyer. I have a private investigator on retainer. He's very discreet. Give me 48 hours. 48 hours. The exact amount of time it would take for the cash offers on the house to start rolling in. The next day, I turned my phone off. I went for a walk around the Biltmore area. I visited the Her Museum. I ate a 12-ounce steak at a restaurant Eleanor, and I used to love for our anniversaries. I was a ghost in my own city, invisible. I was just what Lillian and Gareth thought. I was an old man with nowhere to go. But I was an old man with a plan. On Thursday afternoon, Henderson called the hotel room's landline. I picked up. Arthur, I have a report from the investigator, and it's bad. It's worse than you thought. I sat down. Tell me. His voice was grim. Gareth wasn't laid off from his tech job 9 months ago. He was fired for cause. What cause? The investigator is calling it financial irregularities. My source says it's embezzlement. $60,000. The company hasn't filed criminal charges yet. They gave him a quiet deadline to pay it back. That deadline, Arthur, is the end of this month. $60,000. The exact amount of Gareth's networking headphones and Lillian's new diamond bracelet, multiplied by 20. So they're broke, I said. Worse than broke. They're drowning. The investigator ran their credit. They are $250,000 in debt. Maxed out credit cards, 2 luxury SUV loans on cars they can't possibly afford. They've missed 3 payments on Lillian's import SUV. They're living on fumes and borrowed time. It all snapped into focus. The desperation, the aggression, the ultimatum. They weren't just trying to get rent from me. I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. No, Henderson said. The $6,000 rent was just the stick. They had a carrot. What carrot? Lillian called my office yesterday, pretending to be a concerned daughter. She was asking hypothetical questions. She wanted to know what kind of documents a father would need to sign to let his daughter help him manage his assets. She was asking about adding her name to the deed. I closed my eyes. They were trying to get me to sign papers. I whispered. They were going to get you to sign a quitclaim deed or a power of attorney, Henderson confirmed. They would have used that to take out a fraudulent mortgage on your house, pay off the embezzlement before Gareth gets arrested, and pay off their credit cards. They would have bled the house dry and left you and the trust holding the debt. My own daughter, my Lillian, she wasn't just trying to extort me. She was trying to frame me. She was trying to steal my entire life to save her worthless husband from prison. Thank you, Henderson, I said. My voice was calm. The ice in my veins was spreading. That's all I needed to know. Arthur, he said, a rare note of concern in his voice. We have the offer. $1,005,000 cash from Arizona Horizon Investments. They can close in 5 days. Are you sure you want to do this? I looked at the phone. I thought of Eleanor. I thought of the $250,000. I thought of the $60,000 Gareth stole. Do it, Henderson, I said. Sell it. Sell it all. My phone had been silent for 36 hours. I had ignored the first few texts. Dad, where are you? Dad, this isn't funny. Dad, we're worried. I let them simmer. I let them sit in the house they thought they had just conquered, wondering where their new tenant, their new $6,000 a month income stream, had gone. I was in my suite at the Phoenician, eating a $10 mango scone from room service, which was by my estimation about 1,000% better than the stale bread they kept in the kitchen. I was comfortable. I was patient. I knew they weren't really worried about me. They were worried about the money. The phone rang on Friday afternoon. I let it ring 3 times, just long enough. I picked up. Hello, Daddy. The voice. It wasn't the cold, hard-edged voice of a stranger in my kitchen. This was a different voice. This was the high, breathy little girl voice. The one she used when she was 12 and wanted a new puppy. The one she used in university when she needed money for spring break. It was a performance, and it turned my stomach. Daddy-o, thank God. Where are you? We've been going out of our minds. Are you okay? Are you safe? I'm fine, Lillian, I said. My voice was intentionally flat, tired. I'm at Bill's house. Bill Murdoch had been dead for 4 years, but Lillian wouldn't know that. She never paid attention. Oh, Dad, thank goodness, she breathed. The relief in her voice was palpable. Listen. I am so sorry about the other night. I don't know what got into me. Gareth and we were just so stressed. We were horrible. We didn't mean any of it. I said nothing. I let the silence stretch. You didn't mean it, I thought. You didn't mean to threaten a 68-year-old man with homelessness. You didn't mean to call him a bitter old man. Got it. Dad, are you there? It was intense, Lillian, I finally said. And we want to make it right. Please come home. We don't want your money, Dad. Forget the $6,000. That was stupid. It was just Gareth being stressed. You know how he gets. We just want you home. We miss you. The house is so empty without you. It's empty because I'm not there to cook your dinner. Lillian, I mused internally. It's empty because you're worried your ATM just got up and walked out of the bank. That's nice of you to say, Lillian, I replied. I could hear her take a shaky breath, the next part of her script loading. And we were talking, and the reason we've been so stressed, it's just finances, you know? Oh, here it comes, I thought, settling back into the plush armchair. Here comes the $250,000 question. Things have just been tight, she continued, her voice full of fake vulnerability. Garrett's new consulting project hasn't really taken off yet, and my online sales are slow. In this house, it's a wonderful house, Dad, but it's old. Old, I thought. I just installed a new solar array last year. It's not old. It's just not liquid. Gareth and I were talking to financial advisors, she said. Just a friend. And he was looking at our situation. He said, we are house rich, but cash poor. Isn't that a funny way to put it? Hilarious, I said. But he had this brilliant idea. He said, Dad, the house is paid off, right? You know it is. I paid it off the year you graduated high school. Right. That's the amazing part, she gushed, as if this was a new discovery. All that, what did he call it? Equity. It's just sitting there, locked up, doing nothing. He said we could take out a tiny loan, just a simple home equity line of credit. A helic, he said. It's super common. Everyone does it. A loan, I repeated, playing dumb, against my house. Yes, she said, rushing now, selling it hard. But it's a good thing. We could finally fix that little settling crack in the foundation and maybe update the HVAC. And, while we're at it, we could pay off a few of our high-interest credit cards. It would just free us up so much. It would take all the stress away. It wouldn't cost you a penny, Dad. We would make all the payments 100%. We promise. I close my eyes. Pay off credit cards. Pay off $250,000. Pay off the $60,000 Gareth embezzled before he ends up in a cell. All right, Lillian, honey, I said, letting just the right amount of weary confusion enter my voice. I don't know anything about those kinds of loans. A line of credit, that sounds complicated. It sounds dangerous. Your mother never wanted debt on this house. Ever. I heard her frustrated sigh, quickly covered by a cough. No, Dad, it's not dangerous. It's smart. It's what people do. It's just paperwork. The only thing is, because the house is in your name, we need you to sign the papers, just to authorize it. That's all. It's just a signature. Gareth and I would handle everything. All the payments, we promise. We could even go to the bank tomorrow. Can you come home tonight so we can go tomorrow? There it was. The desperation. The deadline for Garrett's embezzlement must be getting close. They needed this. They needed my signature. This was the moment. I couldn't say no, or they'd panic and do something even more stupid. I couldn't say yes because I wasn't coming home. I had to buy time. Henderson needed 3 more days for the sale to close. Lillian, honey, I said, letting my voice crack just a little. That's just a lot to think about. A new loan against the house. I'm still at Bill's. I'm still just processing everything you said about the rent, about me getting out. My head is just spinning. I can't think about banks right now. I heard her exhale on the other end of the line. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated relief. He didn't say no. He's weak. He's confused. He's pliable. We got him. Oh, oh, of course, Dad, she cooed. You're right. I'm so sorry. We're rushing you. You're right. You take your time. Take a few days. We completely understand. The sale of the house closes in 3 days, I thought. They don't have a few days. Just don't take too long, okay? She added, the anxiety creeping back in. The financial advisor, he said the low interest rates are only available for a limited time. And Dad, her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Gareth is he's really struggling. We're both struggling. We really need this. Please. This was my cue. I let the silence stretch for 10 full seconds. I let her sweat. I'll think about it. Lillian, I said finally. I promise. I need the weekend. I'll call you. I'll call you by Sunday. Okay, Dad. Yes, Sunday is perfect, she said, victorious. Thank you. Thank you so much. You won't regret this. We love you. We love you so much. Goodbye, Lillian, I said. I hung up the phone. I stared at it as if it were a snake. We love you so much. The words echoed in the silent, luxurious room. They were the biggest lie of all. I picked up the hotel phone and dialed Henderson's direct line. She took the bait. I said without even a hello. They're trying to get me to sign a helic. They're desperate. How fast is that closing? The wire transfer for the earnest money just came through from Arizona Horizon Investments. Henderson replied, his voice calm. I'm sending the final documents to your hotel by courier right now. You sign them, they sign them. The deal will be officially closed and filed with the county by 9 a.m. Monday. Lillian was expecting a call on Sunday. They were going to have a very, very bad start to their week. The final documents arrived late that Friday. I signed them in the elegant silence of the suite, the heavy fountain pen scratching the thick paper. By 4:30 p.m. Saturday, Henderson called the landline. Arthur, it's done, he said. His voice carried the weight of finality. Define done, Henderson. The wire transfer from Arizona Horizon Investments cleared the trust bank account at 4:07 p.m. The title company filed the deed electronically with Maricopa County. As of this moment, you no longer own the house on Willow Crest Drive. It belongs to them. The deal is closed. It is final. And more importantly, it is irrevocable. Irrevocable, I repeated. It was the same word Eleanor had insisted on for the trust all those years ago. It was poetic. Thank you, Henderson. Wait, Arthur, there's more. You wanted to know what happens next. You want to know about the occupant removal. I just got off the phone with Mr. Cade's legal team from Arizona Horizon. And I asked, walking to the window, I have to say, I'm almost impressed by their efficiency. These investment companies don't like assets sitting idle. They don't wait. They don't negotiate. He paused. They're sending a process server to the house tomorrow morning, Saturday, at 9 a.m. sharp. Tomorrow. My heart gave a single hard thump against my ribs. They're serving your daughter and son-in-law with a formal legal notice to vacate. And because they are not on a lease and have never paid rent, they are tenants at will. The notice period for a new owner who wishes to occupy is exactly 3 days. 3 days. 72 hours, I whispered. At 9:01 a.m. on Tuesday, Henderson said, his voice a flat legal razor. Arizona Horizon Investments will have a Maricopa County constable and a locksmith on the premises. They will remove your daughter, your son-in-law, and their possessions from the property by force, if necessary, and they will change the locks. I was silent. I looked out the window. The Arizona sunset was painting the sky a deep, perfect, painful shade of violet. It's what you wanted, he said, not unkindly. The asset is liquidated. The funds are secure. The problem is being handled. Yes, I said. Yes, it is. I put the phone down. It was done. 9 a.m. tomorrow. In approximately 16 hours, Lillian and Gareth will be waking up, planning their loan scam, confident in their victory. And then the doorbell would ring. A man in a cheap suit would hand them an envelope, and their entire world would end. I walked over to the minibar. I found a small, expensive bottle of 18-year-old single malt. I poured 2 fingers into a heavy glass. I raised it to the reflection of the man in the window. To you, Eleanor, I whispered. You magnificent, brilliant woman. You always knew. I took a sip. The whiskey burned, but it was a good, clean fire. The clock on the wall started ticking. Saturday morning, 9:05 a.m. I was sitting in the plush armchair by the window of my suite. I looked at the clock on the wall. 9:05. Any second now. The doorbell would ring. 9:07 a.m. My cell phone, sitting on the polished mahogany desk, vibrated. The screen lit up. Lillian. I smiled. Right on schedule. I let it vibrate once. Twice. I took another slow, deliberate sip of my coffee. On the third ring, I picked up the phone. I didn't say hello. I just pressed the button and waited, listening. It wasn't a word. It was a sound. A shriek. A high-pitched, guttural noise I hadn't heard since she was 4 years old and had burned her hand on the stove. It was the sound of pure, unadulterated, blindsided terror. Dad, where are you? Oh my God, Dad, please. Where are you? Lillian, I said. I injected the perfect amount of sleepy, old man confusion into my voice. Lillian, what's wrong? What's happened? Are you okay? A man, she screamed, her voice cracking. A man was just here. He rang the bell, and he stuck a paper on our door. He stuck it on the door. Dad, a paper. Lillian, slow down. I don't understand. What a flyer. A pizza menu. I was playing the part she had cast for me. No, she shrieked. Not a flyer. It's orange. It's a bright orange sticker, and it's... Oh my God. Oh my God. I heard her start to hyperventilate. I heard Gareth yelling in the background, muffled and thick with sleep. What is it? What the hell is it? Lillian, read it. It says, she sobbed, completely losing control. It says, notice to vacate. It says we have to be out. It says Arizona Horizon Investments. Who is Arizona Horizon Investments? Dad, who are they? I don't know, honey, I said, faking a stammer. I've never heard of them. Are you sure? Maybe it's a mistake. It has our address on it, Dad. It says current occupants. It says the house was sold. It says we have 72 hours. 72 hours, Dad. Well, they're calling the constable. Dad, what did you do? There it was. The accusation. Not how can we fix this, but this is your fault. Never responsible. Always a victim. Lillian, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm at Bill's house. I told you. How could I sell the house? That's crazy talk. I heard a violent sound, a fumbling, and then Garrett's voice was in my ear, roaring. You old bastard. You did this. You think this is funny? You're trying to scare us because of the rent. Fake lawyers. I asked. Gareth, I don't have any lawyers. I'm just an old man. Remember? Nowhere to go. No one to help me. Don't you play dumb with me, he raged. Lillian said you were acting weird. This is some sick, twisted game. Well, we're not playing. You get home right now, and you fix this. You fix this, or I swear to God, Dash. Or what, Gareth? I asked. My voice was no longer confused. It was cold. What exactly are you going to do? You're going to threaten me? You, a man living rent-free in a house you don't own, who is currently being investigated for embezzling $60,000 from your last job. You're going to threaten me? The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. I had just confirmed that I knew. That was the first shot. You knew. Lillian whispered back on the phone, terrified. You knew about Garrett's problem? I know everything, Lillian, I said. I know about the $250,000 in debt. I know about the import SUV they're about to repossess. I know about the $60,000 he stole. I know everything. But the house, she was sputtering. It says the house was sold. It says the new legal owners, Arizona Horizon Investments. New owners, Dad. What does that mean? It means, I said, taking another calm sip of coffee, that you should probably start packing. What? Arizona Horizon Investments, I said, speaking slowly and clearly as if to a child, is a highly reputable real estate investment firm. They buy properties for cash. They are, as the notice on your door clearly states, the new legal owners of the house you are currently standing in. No, she breathed. No, you're lying. You can't. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what, Lillian? You gave me an ultimatum. You told me to pay $6,000 a month or get out. You said, and I quote, "This is our world now, Dad. You pay your way." I'm 68 years old. I'm retired. I don't have $6,000 a month for rent. So you sold it. You sold our home. My home. I corrected her. You were very clear, Lillian. I was just a boarder. I was just in the way. So I got out of the way. I liquidated the asset. It was a very clean transaction. I got a very fair price. No, 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 you can't, she shrieked. We live here. This is our home. You can't just sell it from under us. I can, I said, and I did. The sale closed and was filed with Maricopa County yesterday afternoon. That notice on your door, Lillian, it's not a joke. It's not a scam. It's the law. I am the trustee of the Eleanor Sterling Irrevocable Trust. I had the authority to sell, and I did. You monster, she screamed, her voice finally cracking. How could you do this to your own daughter? How could you do this to your family? Family, I said. You stopped being family the moment you decided my love was a commodity you could extort. You stopped being family when you threatened to throw me out of my own home. You meant every single word, and you have to learn that words have consequences. You gave me a choice, Lillian, pay or get out. I chose get out, and since I was leaving, I saw no reason to keep the house. But what about us, she wailed. Where are we supposed to go? We have no money. We have nowhere. I'm sorry, I said, but that is no longer my problem. How could I do this? I repeated her shriek, but my own voice was quiet. You told me to, Lillian. You stood in my kitchen, the kitchen I built with my own hands, and you told me I had two choices. I respected your wishes. I chose option 2. I got out. I packed a bag. I left, and I liquidated the asset. I heard the phone clatter to the floor. Then Gareth's low, terrified voice was on the line. You old bastard. You ruined us. You probably got nothing for it. You ruined us all. Is that what you think? I asked. I leaned back in my hotel armchair. It was time for the final killing blow. I have to admit, Henderson advised me against it, I said conversationally. He said I'd be leaving a lot of money on the table. He said the house was worth $1.3 million, but I told him I don't care about the extra $200,000. I just want it done. What? What are you talking about? Gareth whispered. The offer, Gareth. The cash offer. I thought it was very fair, all things considered. They wired the money to the trust account this morning. I let the words land, clean and sharp and heavy as an executioner's axe. $1,005,000, Gareth. I just sold the house for $1,005,000. I heard a sound, a loud, shattering, explosive sound. It sounded like a porcelain vase. 1 million. Lillian screamed, her voice no longer human. It was the sound of absolute, soul-shattering agony. Gareth was silent. The bluster, the threats, the rage, it was all gone. He had just heard the sound of $1,005,000 evaporating. He had just heard the sound of his salvation turning to dust. He had been 10 days away from conning me out of $1 million asset, and he had blown it. He had blown it all for $6,000. I listened to them weep for another 10 seconds. It was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. I reached out, and very calmly, very gently, I ended the call. I picked up the hotel phone and dialed a number I knew by heart, a number that had never asked me for anything but my time. It rang. Hello. His voice was clear, energetic. David, son. Dad. Hey, what's up? It's Saturday. I was just about to take the kids hiking. How are you? I smiled. A real smile. I'm good, son. I'm really good. Listen, I have a question for you. How do you and the kids feel about a trip to Europe? What? Like when? Soon, I said, leaning back and looking out the window at the endless Phoenix sky. As soon as possible. And don't worry about the cost. It's my treat. This story is a powerful reminder that greed is a poison that can blind us to the true value of what we already have. Lillian and Gareth were so obsessed with the money they felt they deserved that they destroyed the very relationship that was freely giving them support. They made the fatal mistake of confusing kindness with weakness and silence with stupidity. They learned too late that respect is not a one-way street, and that dignity, once you throw it away, cannot be bought back. It teaches us that true strength isn't about how loud you yell, but how patiently you can plan.